British fighter jets defending the skies above Cyprus and across the Middle East as Donald Trump's war with Iran rages. Here, a suspected Iranian drone is destroyed by an F-35 jet, while the Royal Navy is preparing finally to deploy this Type 45 destroyer with the ability to take down ballistic missiles. It may also send an aircraft carrier. An impressive show of force. But the reality is a lot less reassuring. Put bluntly, the UK military has too few troops, ships, jets, guns and crucially ammunition to sustain a major fight for very long. Insiders working at the Ministry of Defence tell me the sorry state of the armed forces is the brutal reality of the impact of decisions by successive governments over decades to spend more on peacetime priorities and less on defence. Even now, with war in the Middle East and Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, there's been no decisive shift to put Britain back onto more of a wartime footing. Instead, there's a widening gap between the rhetoric you hear from ministers about how they're rebuilding the Army, Navy and the Air Force and the reality on the ground. To give a sense of what's been lost, we've tracked how the military has shrunk since the Cold War. These figures don't include reservists, but if the UK were to be drawn into a prolonged conflict today, it would only have around 125,000 full-time forces, comprising almost 26,000 in the Navy, 70,000 in the Army, and 27,500 in the RAF. By contrast, in 2003, when the UK joined the US in invading Iraq, it had just over 200,000 service personnel, with 42,000 in the Navy, 112,000 in the Army, and 53,000 in the RAF. Going back even further to 1983, during the Cold War, there were 321,000 regular members of the armed forces, split between 72,000 in the Navy, 159,000 in the Army, and 90,000 in the Air Force. The defence budget, as a proportion of GDP, has shrunk as well, with Britain spending 5% on the military in 1983, compared with just 2.5% in 2003 and 2.3% now.
Cheer, nice to see you. Thanks for your time.
The Prime Minister has vowed to reverse the slide and invest in new technologies, but there's still no clarity on how plans set out in a major defence review published last year will be funded, or if it will be delivered faster than a lengthy time frame of 2035.
As a country, we are short of cash, and there's some very difficult choices to make about how you find more money for defence. And our view was the government would have to find more money sooner. And what I would say is the world, since the review was published by the government, has just got more difficult. So the urgency is greater and the vulnerability is absolutely no less.
With Britain's sovereign bases in Cyprus already in the firing line, though, the armed forces are having to fight Iran's missiles and drones with what they've got and hope it's enough.